Hello and welcome to an adventure that's a little creepy and full of surprises. So are you ready?
Welcome to the mystery of Barlowe Manor. The Barlowe family was your average everyday family. A mom named Marilyn, a dad Philip, twin siblings, Kimberly and Tim, and their beloved family dog, Harley. But one day everything changed for this ordinary clan when their dad received a very special letter in the mail. This letter came all the way from a lawyer in New Hampshire, and it ended up altering the Barlowe family's lives forever. The letter explained that Philip's grandfather, Silas Barlowe, had sadly passed away, but the good news was that since he was the only grandson, he had inherited his grandfather's old house called Barlowe Manor. Tim's dad had so many fond memories of visiting this house when he was a little boy. He always told Tim and Kimberly stories about how the ancient house would make all kinds of creepy creaking noises, almost as if it was alive. Tim's dad lovingly referred to it as the house that creaks. The day had finally arrived. The movers had come that morning, their large truck idling outside as they loaded up all of our belongings, packing away our lives into cardboard boxes and plastic bins. It was a bittersweet feeling, watching as the familiar furnishings and keepsakes that helped build our cozy family home were carefully transported out the door. But the excitement of a new adventure ahead outweighed the tinge of nostalgia. Dad had managed to transfer his job from Texas, and Mom had gathered all the paperwork for our new school. Now, as we gathered our final personal items and loaded up the car, we couldn't help but glance back one last time at the house we were leaving behind. The place that held so many tears and memories of our childhoods. But with a deep breath, we turned our gaze ahead, ready to embark on this next chapter. Dad looked at us as he started the car and smiled. Harley was even excited and grabbed his favorite bone and jumped in the car. Finally, after traveling for 5 days, we reached our destination of Goffstown, New Hampshire. It was a small town 8 miles from the big town of Manchester. We were so tired and went directly to our new home. Upon entering the old house, Barlowe Manor was an absolutely massive house, so big it could easily swallow you up inside. There were so many different rooms and long, winding hallways that you could wander around for hours and hours without ever finding your way out. It almost felt like the house had a personality of its own, like it was a magical, enchanting place. What kind of amazing adventures and fascinating discoveries might be waiting for them there? As the family stepped into the huge old living room, it felt like the giant house was wrapping its big strong arms around them, closing them in. Harley the dog barked nervously, not quite sure how to react to the strange, overwhelming place. There was just something so captivating but a little bit unsettling about Barlowe Manor. As they were walking through the house, they found a super long hallway. At the end, there was a really old and pretty grandfather clock covered in cobwebs. "The clock must be broken," said Kimberly, "because the pendulum isn't moving at all." She just shrugged, like it didn't matter, and started walking away. But then suddenly, she heard the clock chiming. Kimberly looked back, and guess what? The pendulum was swinging side to side like it was trying to tell them something. Tim and Kimberly stared at each other for a minute, and then both of them burst out laughing, because it was so funny and weird at the same time. Kimberly and Tim were really hungry when their mom called for dinner. They hurried past the big staircase, but then something strange happened. They stopped and stared at a shadow that looked like a man. It was super creepy. They couldn't believe their eyes, and just as quickly as it popped up, it disappeared. Their hearts raced as they decided to be brave and run up the stairs to find out what was going on. At the top, they looked around, but there was nothing there. Then they noticed a door that they had never seen before. They wanted to see what was behind it, but it was locked. They could hear their mom calling again, reminding them about dinner. They dashed down the stairs, but then, out of nowhere, The door they tried to open creaked and swung wide. "Wait, what?" Tim shouted. They sprinted back up the stairs as fast as they could. They flung the door open, expecting to find something awesome. But when they peeked inside, all there was a solid brick wall. No treasure, no secret room, just a wall. It felt like they were in a spooky movie, and they couldn't help but wonder what the shadow was. They exchanged confused glances and finally decided it was time for dinner, but they knew this was a mystery they'd have to solve later. Later that night, it was finally bedtime. The Barlowe family had a super long day, and they were all really tired. Mom and Dad came in to say goodnight and tucked Kim and Tim into their beds. They had their own rooms, but there was a door that connected them. Kim thought the rooms were kinda spooky. The ceilings were really tall, and the wooden floors squeaked a lot, which made Kim jump a little. Her feet were cold on the floor, and the whole place was dark with shadows creeping up the walls. "Do you hear that?" Tim called out loudly from his room. "Yeah, it's just the house," Kim said, trying to sound brave even though she was kinda scared. They both cozied up in their blankets, wishing it would be morning already. The moonlight came through the window like a shiny silver blanket. After a long time, the grandfather clock chimed 1 o'clock. Tim opened his eyes a tiny bit, but then he heard the whispers. They were soft and spooky. Tim didn't wait, he dashed over to Kim's room. "Kimberly," he whispered, poking her side. She groaned and rolled over. "Are you awake? Did you hear that?" "No," she mumbled, "just go back to sleep." But then, just like magic, the whispers came again, like secret voices having a meeting. Both of them got out of bed and stood still, listening carefully. They thought about waking Mom and Dad but decided to wait until morning. After a little while, the whispers stopped. "I'm going to sleep in here tonight," Tim said. They snuggled back under the covers and drifted off to sleep, hoping the morning would come soon. Kimberly and Tim raced into the kitchen, their faces bright with excitement. "Mom, Dad, you won't believe what happened last night," Tim said, practically jumping up and down. Mom smiled and handed them each a bowl of cereal. "Sit down first. Tell us what happened after breakfast." But Kimberly couldn't wait. No, it was super creepy," she blurted out. There were weird noises, like someone was whispering in the dark. Tim nodded his head in agreement. "And I swear I saw a shadow move past my window. I thought it was a ghost or something." Dad raised an eyebrow and took a sip of his coffee. "It's an old house," he said calmly. "Old houses make all kinds of sounds." "But Dad," Kimberly exclaimed, "I really felt like something was watching us." Mom patted her head. "It was probably just the wind or the old floorboards creaking. Houses have stories, you know." "But it was really spooky," Tim insisted. "We were so scared we couldn't sleep." Okay, enough about ghosts for now," Dad chuckled. "Today is about school, remember? You'll need to be brave there too." Kimberly and Tim glanced at each other, then back to their parents. With breakfast finished, they quickly got ready to register for school, still buzzing about their spooky night in the old house. When Mom and the kids got home from registering for school, everyone was super excited. They dashed up the stairs to their rooms, but when they opened the doors, it was a total disaster. Clothes were everywhere, like they had been on a wild adventure. T-shirts and pants were scattered all over the floor, and toys were thrown all around like they had been in a big battle. The action figures were under the bed, and building blocks were stacked way too high on the dresser. Blankets and pillows were tossed to the other side of the room, making it look like a tornado had hit. "Whoa, what happened here?" one of the kids exclaimed, staring in shock at the mess. They all stood there, not knowing what to do next. Tim stomped down the stairs, his face all scrunched up like he just bit into a sour lemon. "That does it," he yelled, his voice echoing in the quiet house. It wasn't fair. They had to show Mom what was happening. He grabbed his sister, tugging her along with him. "Come on, we need her to see this right now." They raced down the hallway, their footsteps thudding on the wooden floor. Upstairs, their rooms were a mess, but Tim didn't care. "Mom, you have to come, look," he shouted, almost stumbling in his hurry. They waited, bouncing with energy, both too mad and too excited to sit still. Finally, Mom walked in, her brow furrowed like she was trying to solve a hard math problem. "What's going on?" she asked, looking from Tim to Kimberly. Tim and Kimberly couldn't stop thinking about the creepy stuff happening in their house. They told Mom about the shadows that danced on the walls, the whispers that echoed when no one was around, and how their dog Harley kept growling at empty corners. It was super weird, and it made them feel all shivery inside. Mom raised her eyebrows and said they should all talk about it later when Dad got home. So they decided to have a family meeting that night. Tim felt a little scared but also excited. Maybe they could figure out what was going on together. After dinner that night, we all sat in the living room. It was cozy, and the lights were dim, which made everything feel a little spooky. Dad started telling us about his childhood. He said his grandpa Silas was super sneaky and loved playing tricks on him. He was really good at that. Dad told us one time Grandpa hid all the spoons in the house, and when Dad went to eat his cereal, he couldn't find one anywhere. We all laughed, and I thought it would be so funny to meet Grandpa Silas. Mom joined in and said she remembered a time when Grandpa Silas pretended to be a ghost. He wore a white sheet and made funny noises. Kimberly asked if we could play tricks too. Dad smiled and said, "As long as they're friendly, it's all in good fun." I couldn't wait to think of my own funny prank to pull on someone. Secrets of funny tricks must run in our family, just like Dad's funny stories. We wanted to see if Great-Grandpa Silas would really come back like Mom said. Before bed, we set up our trick. We grabbed 2 big cookies and poured some milk into a glass. Then we put them on the table in the living room. We thought it would be funny if he ate the cookies and drank the milk. After that, we tiptoed upstairs to bed, trying not to giggle too loud. It was hard to sleep because we were excited and maybe a little bit scared. I wondered if Great-Grandpa would really show up. What if he did? Would he be all ghostly and stuff, or would he just be like he was when he was alive? I couldn't wait to see what would happen in the morning. The next morning, I jumped out of bed and raced down the stairs with my sister, Kimberly. We were super excited to see if Great-Grandpa Silas had eaten the cookies and drank the milk we left for him. My heart sank when I saw that all the cookies were still there. The milk looked just as full. "Maybe ghosts don't eat," Kimberly said, her eyes wide. I stared at her, wondering if that was true. I never thought about ghosts before. We both felt kind of sad as we headed for the kitchen. As we sat down to eat, sadness and disappointment lingered in the air until Dad pointed to the kitchen cupboards. "I think we had a visitor last night," he exclaimed, a smile breaking across his face. Laughter erupted when we looked over and saw the cupboards covered in spoons everywhere. How they got there was a mystery we couldn't solve. Soon, our laughter filled the kitchen, the tension melting away. We knew instantly who the culprit was. It had to be Great-Grandpa. His playful spirit always brought joy and laughter to our lives. The realization that he was still with us, sharing in our moments and making us smile, filled our hearts with happiness. We carried that giggle all the way to school, the burden of our earlier sadness lifted. Great-Grandpa's antics reminded us that even in tough times, joy could find a way back into our lives. He truly was the best. As the years go by, we are really starting to love this old house. It's got so many memories, like the time we had a snowball fight in the yard and Mom made hot cocoa. Dad is happy in his new job, and Mom has made friends in her ladies group, which is cool. Kimberly and I have made lots of awesome friends at school, too. Oh, and don't forget about Harley. He has a new buddy named Sadie. She's a super cute beagle that lives down the street, and they play together all the time. Our birthdays are coming up soon, and we're planning the biggest party ever at Barlowe Manor. It's going to be so much fun with cake, games, and all our friends including Great-Grandpa Silas. The end, or is it now?